Hello, welcome back to the Board Games 4K YouTube channel, and this is a channel where we give you reviews, playthroughs, unboxings, and we generally talk a load of bollocks about tabletop gaming in general. And in this video we're going to be talking about a grandiose magnum opus, probably one of the biggest and baddest board games, and one of the biggest and baddest experiences that you can have on your tabletop. We're going to be talking about Twilight Imperium 4th edition, and in this game you will be building units, you'll be going out into the universe, you'll be trying to take over planets to gain resources, you'll be trying to influence the Galactic Council to give you favours, battling your opponents, trying to fulfil objectives that will allow you to win the game. I'm going to put this down because it's making my shoulder hurt, right? So in this video we're going to give you a very brief overview of the rules. We'll be telling you what we do like, what we don't like, then we will come back and we will tell you whether or not Twilight Imperium 4th edition is worth playing today and in the future. So remember, if you're new here, then please consider subscribing to this channel, leave a comment in that section down below, and we'll see you after this. So, Twilight Imperium. How do you play this game? So, Twilight Imperium is a game that takes place over 4 phases until somebody has accumulated 10, or if you're playing the long game, more victory points, right? So you've got the strategy phase, you've got the action phase, you've got the status phase, and then you've got the agenda phase, right? So in the strategy phase, everyone's going to be choosing a strategy card from the 8 available strategy cards. Then in the action phase, you will be taking actions, right? Obviously. In the status phase, you'll be doing a bit of cleanup. And in the agenda phase, you will be voting on different agendas that may become law or may not be. So the first thing that you're going to do in Twilight Imperium, you're going to choose a race to take control of, and what you'll do, you'll select one of the 17 different races in this game, and you'll take the 2 player sheets, put them next to each other, and then you'll take the components that are listed on the player sheet, place the ships and any ground units you've got in on the relevant space on the modular board that you created, and you'll take any command tokens or any action cards or any other stuff, and you'll put it in front of you in the relevant space near or on your player sheet. So once you've done that, once you've selected your faction, then you will move on to the first phase of the game, which is the strategy phase. And this is sort of like Puerto Rico and the roles in that game. You'll select one of the 8 strategy cards and you'll place it in front of you. So strategy cards are divided into 2 portions. You've got the top bit, then you've got the bottom bit. Top bit refers to the action that only the player that selects the strategy card can take, but every other player has got the option of performing the secondary action in return for certain command tokens are taken from the strategy portion of their player sheet. So some of the strategy cards that you can get in this game are, you've got the leadership strategy card, which allows you to gain 3 command tokens, and it will allow you to spend any amount of influence to gain 1 command token for every 3 influence spent. You've got the warfare strategy card, and this allows you to remove 1 of your command tokens from the game board and then gain 1 command token, and also you can redistribute any number of command tokens on your command sheet, right? And you've got the Imperial strategy card, which allows you to immediately score 1 public objective if you fulfill its requirements, and you gain 1 victory point if you control Mechatol Rex, otherwise draw 1 secret objective. So these are very varied, they all relate to different portions of the game, and once you've taken one, you move on to the action phase. So there's 3 different actions in this game. You've got the strategic action, which relates to the strategy cards that you've just selected. You've got the tactical action, and then you've got the component action. So like we've already mentioned, with the strategy action, you can take the top portion of your strategy card, and then anybody else can pay a certain amount of command tokens from their strategy pool to take the secondary action. So the next action you've got is the component action, and you'll notice that some of the cards or various other bits and bobs in the game might have the word action listed on them, in which case you'll be able to resolve the action that's listed on that particular component. So the tactical action, what you'll do here, you'll just run through a very basic set of steps. You might not take all of them, but this is the steps that you're going to take when you take the tactical action. So the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to activate a system. You'll take a command token from your command pool and you'll place it on the system that you are going to activate. The next thing that you'll do is you'll be able to move ships into a system from any other number of systems, and ships can also transport ground units as well, right? You move your ships into a system that contain an opponent, then you'll have a space battle. And once a space battle is resolved, you'll be able to use any ground units that you've got on your ships, and you'll be able to invade any worlds that are in that system. And again, if there's any ground units on that planet, then you'll have to have a ground battle. So once all the battles are resolved, then you will move into the production phase of the tactical action, in which case, if you've got a space dock in that system, then you will be able to produce more units. And that's basically how you resolve the tactical action. Once all the players have decided they won't take any more actions, then you'll move on to the status phase. And again, you'll follow just a little checklist, a little sort of mini number of phases in order. So the first thing that you're going to do in the status phase, everyone will have the opportunity to score one public objective and one secret objective. At the beginning of the game, you will all be given a secret objective that you will have the option to resolve throughout the game. And also at the end of each round, a new public objective is revealed to resolve one secret and one public objective. And this is the main way of getting victory points in the game. Yeah. So once you have resolved one of those objectives, then you'll draw an extra action card and add it to your hand. You'll retrieve all of your command tokens that you've put out onto the board. You will then get 2 command tokens from your reinforcements, and this is the part of the status phase where you'll be able to actually redistribute your command tokens from the 3 portions on your player board. And then once you've done that, you'll be able to untap any cards that you've used that round. You'll also be able to repair any busted up units that have been damaged in battle. And the final thing that you do to conclude the status phase is that you will return your strategy card back to the strategy card display. So the final phase, phase 4, is the agenda phase. And the first thing you'll do is the speaker will reveal an agenda card, and then everyone will have the opportunity to vote on whether or not to accept or decline the agenda, right? And the way this works is that every planet that you control has a number of influence, and these translate into votes if you want to exhaust that planet. So the more planets you control, the more options you've got in passing or blocking any specific agenda that's on the table. So once you do this, you'll do a second agenda. Agendas might take the form of laws, where there are permanent alterations to the rules or situations in a game. You might just have a one-shot thing where you just resolve the agenda card and that's it, it's done. So once you've completed the agenda phase, then you rinse, wash and repeat. You'll continue these steps until somebody has accumulated 10 victory points. And there's a couple of other things we want to mention. We want to mention stuff about space battles and ground battles. Basically, combat is relatively simple in this game. Every unit that's in the battle will have an attack strength and a number of damage that it can sustain, and you'll basically just roll a load of dice and you'll hit on a number that is equal to or greater than the number on your ship. It's a little bit more complicated than that, but we ain't going to go into depth about the combat. But basically, it is just a case of sort of rolling dice and seeing what happens. So there's also a load of technology to research in this game. In the 4th edition, this has been altered from the previous editions, where in the 3rd edition there was like a tech tree thing that you'd have to go through, but everyone gets their own specific deck of cards, and you will be researching technology by satisfying prerequisites that are on the card. So you might start off with a level 1 technology, and you will have to have researched a lower tier technology in order to research a higher tier technology, right? So there you go. That's a very brief overview of Twilight Imperium 4th edition. It's not a comprehensive rules overview, but that should give you some sort of basic idea on what goes into playing this massive game. So what do we like about Twilight Imperium 4th edition? So the first thing that we really like about this game is the size of the thing. It's absolutely huge. I mean, physically it's massive, right? Because the actual modular board takes up more space than a Persian carpet, you know what I mean? And also all the components, when you're playing with the maximum player count, the amount of stuff that's actually on the table, the counters and all the different bits and pieces, it's mind-boggling, right? You've got a huge variation in units. You've got your bog standard ground units, you've got carriers, you've got cruisers, you've got dreadnoughts, and you've got the dreaded War Sun that can come out if somebody can afford to pump it out. And when that comes out, everyone starts to themselves, because you know that it's game on, right? So the amount of action cards that are in this game is absolutely staggering. The amounts of alien races that you've got in this game is absolutely amazing. I mean, for example, you've got the, I don't know how to pronounce it, the X-Char Kingdom, you know what I mean? They've got the special ability where they've got peace accords, so after you resolve a primary or secondary ability of the diplomacy strategy card, you may gain control of one planet other than Mechatol Rex that does not contain any units and is in a system that is adjacent to the planet you control. You've got the Yin Brotherhood, and they've got a special ability of indoctrination. So at the start of a ground combat, you may spend 2 influence to replace one of your opponent's participating infantry with 1 infantry from your reinforcements, right? You've got the Sardak Nor, which has the unrelenting ability, and they can apply +1 to the result to each of your units' combat rolls. That's really, really powerful, right? You've got the infamous Emirates of Hassan. It's the Space Lions, right? They got the Masters of Trade. You do not have to spend a command token to resolve the secondary ability of the trade strategy card. They've got guild ships and they can negotiate transactions with players that are not your neighbour. And then arbiters as well. When you're negotiating a transaction, action cards can be exchanged as part of that transaction. So there's a massive, massive variety of stuff in this game. No 2 games are going to be played out the same way ever. And yeah, it's just astonishingly varied. So the second thing that we really like about Twilight Imperium 4th edition is the way that the objective cards are revealed as you progress through the game. And this is really interesting for 2 reasons, right? Firstly, it prevents people from planning ahead too far. So imagine if they were all revealed at the beginning of the game, you'd know exactly what was on offer and what was on the table, yeah? And also, it'd be very difficult for your brain to sort of absorb what you need to do for each of the rounds, yeah? And secondly, it allows you to have a real chance of actually fulfilling these objectives, because where there's a limited amount of pre-planning that you can perform with regards to the objectives, right? Then when they're revealed, you might already be halfway there and your opponent might not be. So the longer the game goes on, the more objectives become available. So it's a very, very clever way of sort of limiting the way that players can sort of maybe plan too far ahead for a game of this size, yeah? So the third thing that we really like about this game is the way that combat isn't the be-all and end-all of this game. And when it does happen, it is a good laugh, you know, and you can recover from combat, which is another good thing about this game. But you'll probably find that when you play this, combat isn't at the forefront of people's minds. It's expanding. Trying to avoid combat is one of the most fun things about this game. And when it does happen, it's quite explosive, quite exciting. It's because it's very, very simple, but it's very, very clever as well, because unlike other types of games of this nature, the game tempts you into these weird mind games where you're trying to convince somebody that you're a threat, but also not a threat, because you don't want them to attack you to strike first, you know? So you'll be building up your units in a way that doesn't alarm people too much. Well, maybe you do want to alarm people and then move away from them, or whatever you want to do. But the combat in this is more psychological, if you know what I mean. And that's really, really different. So the final thing that we really like about Twilight Imperium is the way it is the ultimate 6-player game. And it's not even a game for 6 players, it's an experience. It's an all-dayer, and this game has everything when you're playing with 6 players. It's got the varied special abilities, it's got the limited amount of space for you to do your dirty work in, it's got a plethora of options, a plethora of cards, and really it is a grandiose experience. You need to play at least once a year, right, or in your life. So there's no real other game like it. I think that's what we're trying to say here, is that there's not really any other game like it, and it really is more of an experience than a game. So what don't we like about Twilight Imperium 4th edition? So the first thing that we don't like about this game is it takes too bloody long. And in a sense, the main problem with this game is it's a game of contradictions, you know? It seems to contradict itself, because where it takes all day to play, that's a fantastic thing, because we love games that you can sink your teeth into, that you could devote a whole day to. But on the flip side of that, it's very difficult to get this game to the table because it takes too long. I mean, my wife doesn't like playing this game because it takes too long. It's just too much going on. And it's very difficult to get people round your house to devote that amount of time to one board game. You know, it takes too long. Even though it's been slimmed down, it takes too long. So the second thing that we don't like about this game is that where it's been streamlined, like we said before, it's a game of contradictions. Where it's been streamlined, that's welcome, because it makes it easier to deal with. It makes it more digestible. But on the flip side of that, it doesn't feel, for us at least, it doesn't feel as epic as Twilight Imperium 3rd edition. And that might be something to do with the fact that this game hasn't received any expansions yet, which is a bit odd, really. But the 3rd edition just felt more epic. It felt bigger, and it felt more intense. I don't know. This just feels like it's had so much stripped away from it all, maybe condensed down into this a smaller ball, you know. And I'm not saying we prefer the 3rd edition, because that was a little bit messy and a little bit more complicated. But like we said, it's a game of contradictions. So the third thing that we don't like about this game is the teardown of this game. Just gives me nightmares just thinking about it. There's so much to pack away. There's so much mess on the table after maybe a 6-hour game that packing this one up is like stripping your flesh off with a rusty razor blade. It drives me up the wall. And it's another thing that puts me off this game. And it's another contradiction with this game, because like we said before, the grandiose nature of this game, the massive, huge, gargantuan amount of components in this game is welcome. We like the epic nature of this game, but on the flip side again, when you're dealing with so much stuff, it really is a nightmare to tear down after you've just spent maybe 4, 5, 6, 7, how many hours playing this game. And every time we've played this, I've had to leave it on the table and come back to it the next day to tear it down. And even then, it really is a bit of a nightmare to do. So the final thing that we don't like about this game is that there are so many rules that are easily missed. And we know this is a problem because it tells you on the old summary thing on the back, it tells you a list of rules that are easily missed. And there's no real way to condense the rule set down into a manageable cheat sheet. You know, we've tried downloading all these different sheets and different things, and it really is a nightmare trying to remember everything that goes into this game, and you're going to miss all the rules, and sometimes those rules might be game breaking. So where it is complicated and there's a lot of bits and pieces going on, there's a lot of stuff flying around, different rules for this and different rules for movement and restrictions and different variables and all this sort of stuff, you're going to miss rules unless you're a hardcore player, you know what I mean? And that's a real bummer for us, that there isn't any sort of real way to condense the rules down into something that my pea-sized brain can manage. So to summarise, is Twilight Imperium 4th edition still worth playing today and in the future? And we're going to say, of course it is. Obviously it is. What a stupid question. Of course Twilight Imperium is worth playing today. It's the quintessential space game. It's the quintessential board game experience. It's not been in print for over 20 years for no reason. It's got huge variation. It's got a wealth of strategy and tactics that you can experiment with the more you play it. And it's one of them games that the more you play it, the better you will get at it. It does suffer from being too long, even though it's been stripped down. And it also suffers from a rule set that I personally struggle to cement into my mind. You know, every time I play this, I will struggle with certain rules that are easily missed, all the exceptions and all that. But that doesn't prevent Twilight Imperium from being a 5-star game. It's a must-have game. If you don't have this, you have to go out and buy Twilight Imperium. You might struggle to get it to the table enough to justify the exorbitant price tag, but if you can get it to the table, even if you play it once a year for the rest of your life, it's well worth the investment in time and money to do so. So there you go, that's Twilight Imperium 4th edition. That's a very brief review of this absolutely huge, monstrous game. So remember, if you're new here, then please consider subscribing to this channel. Leave a comment in that section down below. We'll see you next time.